hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Owygen. Brave the Wild is available on all your favorite podcasting apps and is also, of course, a part of the Hockey Podcast Network. I thank you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. Minnesota Wild, well, apparently I thought it was going to be 3 games, but it's actually just 2 because the next game's on Thursday. So it's like Thursday of December the 1st. Of course, that's usually when I record, and that is when this show will be uploaded. I am recording the first segment on Wednesday morning due to time constraints. Tomorrow I have to go to work early a little bit, so I'll be able to finish up the show tomorrow, but want to start the show on Wednesday. So just kind of a heads up, and luckily it doesn't really mess anything up in terms of the schedule with the games. But in case any news happens or whatever, I'll get caught up in the later segments. So, if as weird as that sounds, the Minnesota Wild, not surprisingly, had a matinee loss to Toronto, despite, again, a nice little comeback in the game, kind of getting things back in gear. But the Minnesota Wild, generally speaking, did not have their best game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Maple Leafs are a decent team. Of course, a little bit of controversy involving this one as well, with Matt Murray moving the goalpost, and apparently he's been known to do that more often than not. Moving the goalpost, or should we just say moving the net off of its post, and then, of course, that stops play, which killed the Wild's chances of scoring, which is really irritating. Marc-Andre Fleury returns, wasn't all that great, and it often does happen when a goalie is kind of... When a goalie's rusty, when they come back from a layoff, they often struggle. So that's why I don't like to leave backup goalies out too long. And, of course, again, when the starter first comes back, you could be in for a rude awakening, unfortunately, at least for one night. So that's just kind of how that went. It was kind of all the ingredients to a disappointing game, basically. Matinee, the day after Thanksgiving. The Wild always seem to stink in these kind of games, these holiday weekends and such. Beautiful uniforms the Wild wore. And I will say again, those of you that don't like the North Star colors, I don't understand. I don't understand you, sorry. It's nice that the Wild do have their own identity, and heck, they would still have the logo should the Wild rebrand themselves to this new look, but they're not going to. So I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face. They're not going to. So I might as well just shut up and move on, I guess, from it. What's his name? Marco Rossi, unfortunately scratched and eventually sent down later on after the second game of these two, the Arizona game, but scratched night in, night out now. What's happening with that? Obviously, again, he's not been productive. He's been on the second power play unit, but the opportunities haven't been all that great. A lot of people wishing that you could see Rossi between Zuccarello and Kaprizov, and that might really jumpstart him. We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about more in the second segment about Iowa and all that, but Rossi, awesome start anyway in Iowa. 3 points right away, basically, in that one. Like the first period, basically, Rossi off to a blazing start, and I'm not too surprised. Again, like I always say, it's like sending this young baseball player down that was, struggling. He's batting like 190 or something with a home run or something in like 20-some games. And then you send him to the AAA again, and then he cracks a couple home runs, and his batting average is 350, 400, and then away you go. So hopefully that can help jumpstart Marco Rossi, get him rolling. I mean, the same kind of stuff was happening with Joel Eriksson Ek. It was like really a slow start for his career, honestly, and he wasn't as highly touted, of course. More of a mid to late round, first round pick. And he was sent down a few times, of course, and a lot of his first few years in the NHL, not very productive. His first stint in the NHL, he'd only played 1 game in the AHL, which is crazy. Only 1 game, which is probably way too fast, jumping him to the NHL, him being Joel Eriksson Ek anyway. 1 game, 1 goal in Iowa, comes up to Minnesota, 7 points in 15 games. Nice start, but then the next year, in 75 games, only 16 points. So again, very slow. And then he was in the AHL around the same time, point a game, right? 8 points, 8 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. In the NHL with Minnesota, 58 games, 14 points the next year. AHL, during that same season, the Minnesota Wild sent Rossi down again, or I called him Rossi, Joel Eriksson Ek down to the AHL point-a-game player. And I remember talking about it at the time. This is at 18-19. It's not even that long ago. It just feels like 100 years ago. And then right after that was significantly more productive. Was almost a half a point a game player in the NHL and kind of hung around that, and he's gotten gradually better and better ever since. and has been a mainstay in the National Hockey League, and a guy I would consider a candidate for alternate captain, particularly if one of the captains are hurt, or again, if Dumba is traded, which I do believe he will be. I would be very surprised if Matt Dumba is still on the Minnesota Wild next season, like if he's re-signed after a UFA and such situation. I'd be very surprised. I don't think he's going to take the kind of discount where we're talking hardly anything. And even if he comes back for $2 million, I don't know. He hasn't been good. He just hasn't. And it's not me just being a Dumba hater, and all of you that are huge Dumba fans. I mean, good for you. We don't have to agree on everything. We just don't. He wasn't good this past week either. Alex Goligoski actually had 2 assists in the Toronto game, which is kind of cool. Nice numbers for him. Dumba was a -3 versus Toronto, and a lot of people are very unhappy with that performance, and only 1 shot on goal. He's not providing offense. He's not providing defense. Yeah, he's a nice leader in the locker room, and everybody loves him, and he's the coolest guy ever, and that's great. But, I mean, I don't know. If he's not good, he's not that good. It's just honesty. Zuccarello and Kaprizov both a goal and an assist in the game. Kaprizov, 9 shots on goal, insanely impressive. Freddie Gaudreau was actually really good in the face-off circle, where Steele wasn't. Everybody's already talking about Sam Steele like he's the Steele of the century. I don't think he is. He's solid. Probably deserves to be in the NHL. Obviously, deserves to be in the NHL like a regular and can be a factor on the penalty kill and the power play. He got obliterated in the face-off circle. He lost 11 face-offs to winning only 2. And I know you got some talented players over there in Toronto. It's an extremely top-heavy franchise, and usually is throughout history. But I don't know. Let's not all act like Sam Steele is this Dave Gagne clone, basically, which a lot of us were kind of fooled last year by Hartman, even though Ryan Hartman did have a 35-goal season. That's insanely good. Not expecting that from Sam Steele. Dave Gagne this, Dave Gagne that. Dave Gagne stayed good. He didn't have just one jump up here and drop down. So we'll have to wait and see. Sam Steele, yes. Good player, solid player. But is he really anything like of a top 6 type of guy? I don't think so, long term. Temporary, yeah, sure. Just like Ryan Hartman was last year. And we'll have to wait and see with that. Disappointing loss, even though the Wild easily could have won this game. They didn't, bottom line. And that's the frustration there at the end of the day. I mean, the goals were given up, the defense wasn't that good, and the Wild were generally outplayed versus Toronto despite a little quote-unquote furious rally. Arizona Coyotes had a furious rally in this one. Minnesota was playing so well, and Arizona made a bit of a comeback there at the end of the day, scoring a couple of late goals to make it 4-3, and everybody's terrified. Thankfully, Minnesota hangs on and gets the win. Kirill Kaprizov, another really good game here, multi-points, 1 goal, 2 assists on 3 total points. Joel Eriksson, a couple of assists. Love what he did. And Steele has had a wonderful few games here, and he does deserve recognition, at least an honorable mention. Boldy kind of coming back and playing, lighting the lamps a bit more, which is a nice feeling. He hasn't been spectacular, but 9 goals. I mean, that's really nice. Jared Spurgeon scoring, and Brodin unfortunately had a lower body injury at some point during the course of this game, and it sounds like he's not going to play, at least coming up versus the Edmonton Oilers, and we'll see. So it was, I guess, as worded from Dean Evison, the coach, of course, that Jonas Brodin didn't even know he was injured and woke up the next morning like, I'm hurt, I guess. So that's interesting. Lower body injury, be it an ankle, a shin or something, or not a shin, but a calf maybe. That's just my guess. Sounds about right. Who knows? Obviously, you don't want him to get targeted, and of course, Paul Fenton would threaten to sue me and have my show banned from the internet, but Paul Fenton is no longer the GM, so that's good. Kalen Edison with a point, and Middleton and all them. So Middleton as well. Good news that Mason Shaw just continues to remain a mainstay with Minnesota. And of course, that's not news. It's just that it's a nice feeling that he's here for the long term. I like to keep talking about him because love what he does. Hasn't been scoring as much, but still a major factor. Ryan Reeves looks like a guy, obviously, who's past his prime. Obviously, he hadn't skated for a while. Maybe he's a bit rusty in that sense, but definitely looks like a guy who's past his prime. Another feeling I have about Ryan Reeves, a lot nicer guy, isn't he, than a lot of us probably thought all these years with, all the different teams he's been on, like St. Louis, especially Vegas, the Rangers recently. I think he played for Dallas, didn't he? I know he played for Pittsburgh. Yeah, mostly St. Louis. Pittsburgh for a short stint after they won the Cup, unfortunately, and left St. Louis before they won the Cup. And then Vegas came super close but never did. And he never actually... No, he was on the Cup final team, 17-18, yeah. Yeah, I was already in Golden Valley when Vegas was in the Cup final. I just moved here, moved back home anyway, but to the, to my apartment, not not moving in with my parents or anything crazy like that. So unfortunately for Ryan Reeves, he's come close but never won the Cup conference final with the Rangers last year. And then this year, no points in 12 games and was scratched a lot. So far, he's played in both games for Minnesota that he's, been active. But again, looks past his prime. The skating isn't real good. Very slow and slow and plodding. So, and what do you expect? He's a fourth line type of guy who brings a physical presence, a lot of personality, this and that. And he does have a good personality. You don't really get to see or hear a lot of interviews from Ryan Reeves when he's not on your team. You hear him if you're following him like religiously close and all that, but who really has the time for that at the end of the day, unless you're, I guess, his biggest fan in the whole wide world. But yeah, sounds like a pretty nice guy, actually. And that's hockey. Like I'm sure a lot of guys like Derek Bugard, a lot of us know him. He was a wonderful guy, a really cool guy. But, Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames and whoever else probably like, oh God, I hate Derek Bugard, blah blah blah. When he was out there, of course. But a lot of fans would. The players know he's a good guy. But again, it was an imposing figure. And again, God rest his soul. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Derek Bugard. I love him to death, and still heartbroken of what happened there at the end of the day. But it's, comparisons. All these big, tough guys, they seem like the meanest SOB ever, and he's a jackass, but maybe they're pretty friendly behind the scenes. Some of them aren't, but some of them are, that type of thing. With all of that said, a nice, solid win for the Minnesota Wild against a sub-500 team, but a team that's definitely improved from last year. It's like a little different vibe. Obviously, Phil Kessel's on Vegas now, and I'm guessing significantly much happier. They're playing a hell of a lot better as well. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, obviously nice players, honestly, but, they play in a funny building, basically, and it's and the Gophers were actually playing in it last week against the Sun Devils, so it's kind of funny how all that's kind of turning out. Gophers are playing against the Sun Devils. They play in the same building, and I get a kick out of it. I knew I was going to, thankfully I was able to remember this in time. I get a kick out of the name of the building, like Mullet Arena. Like, how fitting is that for hockey, especially like 80s, 90s hockey, even 70s hockey? Mullet Arena. I love that. I'm sure that's been mentioned 100 million times, and I'm just boring people at this stage. But, well, I'm going to keep boring you. I'm going to say it anyway. Just kidding. Jacob Chychrun, you're constantly hearing about him in trade rumors and this and that. Unfortunately, the chances of the Wild making a move like that would probably involve, again, we'd have to dump salary. Obviously, $6 million is Dumba, or, well, the remnants of the season and all that, to be able to take on a Chychrun is making about the same. Actually, I'm thinking about the other guy with Timo Meyer, but Chychrun's going to demand a significant amount of money. Unfortunately, I don't see the Wild in any position to make that kind of move. Apparently, he was good friends with Brandon Duhaime, of course. Both of them came from that area, Boca Raton, Florida. So, grew up in Florida. And pretty cool, obviously. Chychrun in another warm climate in Arizona. I'd take Arizona over Florida in terms of physical climate. Other thing, well, Arizona generally. I mean, I would like to live there. Unfortunately, the franchise is a bit of a mess, and playing in that Mullet Arena where the Sun Devils play. It's kind of cute and everything, but it's college. It's a college arena. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Boldy, though, again at 9 goals. That's a good thing. Schmaltz, the former Blackhawk, got his third of the year. I don't know. It's not a great situation. Kaprizov's already at 13 goals and on pace for something around 106 points now, according to Elite Prospects. So they do the math for you. 51 goals and 55 assists. That'd be pretty amazing numbers. Crazy to think he'd actually have 2 points less than last season, but 51 goals and 55 assists. That's absolutely nuts. Last year was 47 goals, 61 assists. I mean, it's all kind of relative. Amazing. Obviously, it's such a privilege to have a player at this caliber on the Minnesota Wild compared to what's happened in the past. Where maximum points were like 84, and it basically never happened. It was like once or twice, like a decade in the past with the Gabricks. and Eric Stahl of all people. Obviously, a very productive player. He had 100 points the year the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup. But that was when he was in his in his heyday, so to speak. Very early in his career. Eric Stahl putting up insane numbers. But only 2 games this week, so I guess we don't have to go on and on and on and babble too much. The Mike McDonough Award winner for this episode, got to go with Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, he had, 5 points in 2 games. That's pretty damn productive. And again, back in the 100-point projection again, which is great. Nick Bjugstad did add an assist with Arizona, so happy for him. Nick Bjugstad still skating with the Arizona Coyotes and all of that. And obviously wonderful to see him still in the NHL and still doing well. Apologize for my ongoing babbling. The James Shepard Memorial for this past week, I mean, Dumba's not been looking good. And I know I'm picking on Dumba. I know I'm the biggest jerk of all time and all that, but he hasn't been good. He hasn't been good. He was definitely better versus Arizona. At least he wasn't a minus statistically. Goligoski was a -2, but he had a multi-point game. Freddie Gaudreau hasn't been all that productive either. I don't know. I haven't really. He's okay. Sometimes he has his good weeks, his good couple days here and there, but nothing overly exciting. The big story really of the Arizona game was Marcus Foligno basically getting basically like penalized up the yin yang. There's an ongoing feud with Liam O'Brien. That was interesting. And it just kind of kept going on and on during the course of the game. And ultimately didn't get ejected, but at a 10-minute misconduct. That's why you get the 19-minute deal there. Because Foligno was basically berating the refs. So the refs basically said, okay, screw you. 10-minute misconduct and all that. So Foligno did not feel he was treated fairly. And I can understand the frustration. Luckily, the Wild did win the game and didn't get destroyed in that whole penalty situation because it was 5 minutes for fighting and all that, and then 4 minutes, like two minor penalties at the same time. So it was like a 4-minute power play for the Arizona Coyotes. Thankfully, again, the Minnesota Wild were not beat in that situation. Wild came out of that okay, thank God. I mean, they killed a 4-minute penalty, so good job, Minnesota, in that case. Avoided something pretty scary there. Actually, neither team had a power play. Nope, Matt Boldy did. Matt Boldy had a power play goal, that's right, in the game. Kalen Addison's 10th assist already, so wonderful feeling there for Kalen Addison. But, yeah, that was the story of the game in a lot of ways, that huge fight with the referees for Foligno that led to all that penalty minutes and anger and frustration and all that. So at the end of the day, we will take a quick break, come back, and preview the upcoming games versus the Edmonton Oilers, the Anaheim Ducks. So the Edmonton game is at home in Xcel Energy Center. Anaheim Ducks also on Saturday. That's another matinee. Well, we'll see how that goes. The Ducks are not good, so hopefully Minnesota can take care of business. Head to Dallas. Ooh, back-to-back from St. Paul to Dallas, Texas. Another frickin' matinee. Come on. That's weird. Dallas Stars in Dallas, of course, 2 p.m. and then visit Calgary, who have been a disappointment this year, honestly, after an amazing start, a great roster, this and that, goaltending, defense, forwards, everything, leadership, coach. Come on, and you're only 10-9? What's going on, Calgary? Minnesota plays the Calgary Flames on Wednesday, and we'll be talking about that next week. So, yep, a little bit of Northwest Division coming up here. I like it, actually. Yep, Edmonton twice in about an 8-day span. Calgary, actually Edmonton 3 times. When you go all the way up to December 12th. Wow, Vancouver on the 10th and Calgary on the 7th and so on and so forth. So looking forward to those games. I like those Northwest games, Pacific Division, but former Northwest Division rivals and such. With that said, again, we will come back and preview those games right after this. we are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 2. Going to look at the upcoming 4 games versus Edmonton, Anaheim, Dallas, and Calgary. Should be a fun upcoming schedule. We'll see how the Wild do, of course, against all these tough and interesting opponents. Well, most of them are tough anyway. And now a word from our sponsor, DraftKings. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pre-game moneyline on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Thank you, DraftKings and the Hockey Podcast Network. Edmonton Oilers, who are they? Well, they're okay. They're all right. They're 12-10 on the season. Welcome to December, everybody. Welcome to December, and this is the 300th episode of Brave the Wild.
There's number 300.
Yes, it's all about me. Okay, no, it's really not. But yeah, 300 episodes of Brave the Wild. If it was all about me, I would turn this into a massive production. And it's the 300th episode. It's a wonderful milestone. And there was a time I thought there was a chance this show wouldn't get to 50, and I'm not kidding. The Wild were in the doldrums of this and that, and let's just say, I could have been better back in those days. I could have been a bit better, obviously, and we're all looking to improve at everything we do, regardless if you're good at it, not good at it. I don't think I was very good at it back then. In fact, this was easily my weakest show of the 3 podcasts I was doing at the time, and I can't say it's the weakest one now, that's for sure. It's probably the strongest. Maybe those of you might be thinking, if this is your strongest show, oh boy. I know. But yeah, 300 episodes, here we are, all these years later. It's been, 14 and a half years or so, about August 2008, when Marian Gaborik and Jacques Lemaire were still a part of the organization. Isn't that something? So, pretty cool. I may get into some other random stuff. I wish I brought it up in the Twitter for fan interaction, but I think it's a little too late for that, unfortunately. And I stupidly didn't even mention it was the 300th episode in the first segment, but okay, well, now you know. Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames' worst enemy and all that. Well, they're 13-10 now, of course, because I don't know why this was stuck in the past, even though I just loaded it. Who knows? Okay, maybe it was actually stuck in the past. Klim Kostin with visa issues. Klim Kostin with visa issues as of November the 30th. Ryan McLeod, undisclosed injury as of November the 27th. Warren Foligno, undisclosed injury, left the game on the 26th of November. Jonas Brodin, lower body injury. So he recovered from the sickness, probably the same nonsense a lot of people are having. For some people, it's super mild. Like me, it's super mild. My wife's coughing like it's no tomorrow, but she's still working and doing okay. So, maybe it's just an obnoxious thing, and it can be. Philip Gustafson, right when Marc-Andre Fleury comes back, upper body injury as of the 26th. Again, Jonas Brodin is the 29th. That was during the Arizona game, which is actually flashing on the screen right now. Thank you, Bally's, for that. And Brandon Dehame, upper body injury, left the game on the 23rd. Damn it, come on, Dehame, stay healthy. Please stay healthy, Dehame. We need you. And he'd been taking this nice step up. Connor DeWeer's taking a step up this year. But Dehame, I thought, took like a step and a half up this year. Like, he's clearly a better player. Connor DeWeer was barely NHL material, I thought, last year. Like, he hung in there, and clearly he's a different player this year. But Dehame, I thought, a step above. But now he can't stay freaking healthy. So the team comparisons, as I keep babbling on, and I was trying not to. I got 4 games to preview. Goals for 9th, Minnesota is 26th. This is Edmonton, of course. Goals against 26th, and Minnesota's 5th. Again, good goaltending by Minnesota after a crappy start. Edmonton, not so much. Assists. Actually, I did preview this game on the last episode, but I'll go over it super duper quick. Power play 6th for Edmonton, 13th for Minnesota. Penalty kill 27th, 6th for Minnesota. Penalty minutes, Minnesota is pretty bad. We're like the second worst team in the league. and Edmonton's right in the middle around 16th. So I did preview this team, and I made fun of Jack Campbell, so I guess maybe I'll kind of sort of skip this one, other than I do believe Minnesota wins this game. We match up well with Edmonton most of the time, except when they're terrible. So again, I'm going to go with let's go with a 5-3 win for Minnesota. I think we score a lot of goals. Kirill Kaprizov stays hot, but I also believe that, well, I always tend to go with Jared Spurgeon against Edmonton, but this one's not in Edmonton. I'm going to go with Matt Boldy gets his 10th goal of the season. Minnesota wins 5-3. So yes, I did preview this on the last episode. I remember now how I was kind of like, I completely blanked. Like, it's Thursday. It's a Thursday game. Thursday's when I do the show. Hello, Joey. Wake up. Anybody home? Anaheim Schmucks come to the Anaheim Schmucks at 6:15 and 2, 8th in the Pacific, come into XL Energy Center on Saturday for another matinee game. Stop it. I like the evening ones better, damn it. I like to chill at like 7, 8 o'clock and watch hockey. 7, 8, even 9 o'clock. Some of you hate 9. I like 9, dang it. I like it, especially if there's, say, a Timberwolves game at 6 or 7 or vice versa, and then you get the other team a little later. That's cool. So then they're not like jumping on top of each other. But I suppose these matinees can help that as well. Babbling again, sorry. John Gibson, undisclosed injury, left the game on the 27th of November. John Klingenberg, very familiar name, of course, 25th of November, lower body injury. Max Comatose, of course, lower body injury as of the 19th, so he's been out a bit, unfortunately. Anaheim's 28th in goals, 32nd in goals against, 32nd, so 32nd, not 30th. The Wild are the third worst penalty team in the NHL. God, Anaheim sucks. Don't lose this game, okay? Seriously, look at this. Are you ready? Let's start from the top. 28th in goals, 32nd in goals against. I never read this stat because it's kind of random. 30th in assists, okay? 30th in power play, 32nd in penalty kill, 32nd in penalty minutes, 31st in shooting percent. You can't make this stuff up. So the Wild are probably going to lose 4-0, right? Probably, but maybe not. It's a matinee, so watch out. watch the Wild lose 4-0. Minnesota last time around won 4-1 on November the 9th. Again, we play on December the 3rd, and then the season finale is on December 21st, Wednesday at 9. Love it. Love those second shift type games. Anaheim Schmucks are 1-5 in their last 1-4 in their last 5. Sorry, they lost to St. Louis 3-1, beat the Rangers. Wow, 3-2. Lost to Ottawa 5-1. Lost to Seattle 5-4, and lost to Nashville 2-1. Minnesota, by the way, 3-2 in our last 5. Minnesota has to win this game. Let's go with another 4-1. And the most likely guy to score is going to be Darkwing Dumba. He always seems to do something against the Ducks, even though he's been somebody I've been picking on for a while, and I do believe it's his last season in Minnesota. It's his last season in Minnesota, right? Is it okay to say that? Am I offending half of the fan base, or 2/3 of the fan base? Something along those lines. Sorry, I'm like choking to death here. Minnesota, don't choke in this game, please. I mean, Anaheim is the worst team in the league, basically, in every stat, practically. You can't make that stuff up. Remember when the Vikings, many years ago, back in 2003, played against Arizona? All we had to do was beat Arizona, win the division, make the playoffs, whatever it was. I believe it was win the division. Both the Vikes and the Packers sucked. Yes, we win the game, we make the playoffs, win the division. Worst offense in the NFL, worst defense in the NFL, and we lose. Surprise, right? That was kind of sad. The infamous Nate Poole, play and all that cute stuff way back in 2003. Minnesota wins 4-1. Most likely guy to score in the game is going to be Kalen Addison. Not Matt Dumba. Let's keep going. Dallas Stars, slightly better. First place in the Central Division. That would be our division. With Pete DeBoer as the coach now. 13-6-4 on the season. 4 overtime losses, huh? The Wild have 2. Nick Camano, as of September 22nd. Okay, so they're pretty healthy, knock on wood, but not that I want them to keep winning, but good for them for staying healthy, I'd have to say. Famous last words, of course. We all know how things go with that. Dallas Stars, first in the league in goals. First. Okay, Robertson, congratulations with 19 goals in the season. 19. Jason Robertson, the Kirill Kaprizov hater, right? No, he's way ahead of him. He's got 6 more goals than Kirill. 10th in goals against. Again, very solid team. 3rd in the power play, 2nd in the penalty kill. Okay, 3rd in the power play and 2nd in the penalty kill, huh? Okay, well, we might have a weakness here. Dallas is 29th in penalty minutes. But you got to go against the second best penalty kill, so... And their shooting percentage is 2nd. I never bring that stat up, but I did twice now because it's way at the top. Dallas actually is 2-3 in their last 5. Surprise, huh? Interesting. Lost to Colorado 3-2, beat Chicago 6-4, lost to Winnipeg 5-4. They're giving up some goals, aren't they? 4-1 loss to Colorado in Colorado, and 4-1 victory in St. Louis, who has not been good at all. 4-game series at this club against Sunday, December the 4th, another matinee. So back-to-back and both matinees in the X. I don't think the Wild are going to sweep this little weekend. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a split. Beat Anaheim and not beat Dallas. Thursday the 29th of December is the next game in the X. This is actually not in the X. We have to go to Dallas overnight. I remember now, yeah. I was looking at that and going, what the heck? Then we go to Dallas on February the 8th. Interesting there. Wednesday. And then February 17th. Friday. I believe that's Michael Jordan's 60th birthday. Happy 60th birthday in advance, Michael Jordan, in the Xcel Energy Center. Minnesota does not win this game. 4-2 victory for the Dallas Stars. Kirill Kaprizov will score. Jason Robertson will score. They will both score in the game, but the Wild end up not winning. Let's look at the Stars a little bit. You know, I didn't even look at the Ducks at all because I'm kind of in a hurry. I apologize. John Gibson's given up about 4 goals a game, and his save percentage is under 90. That stinks, but isn't he hurt? So that's even worse. Anthony Stolarz is a guy that I think we struggled with and beat last year. 3.75 goals against average and save percentage, 89. Troy Terry is leading the Ducks with 24 points. That's actually pretty good. 10 goals. Trevor Zegras with 20 points. And what was I looking for? I don't see him. Anyhow, we'll move on from that. Cam Fowler, 12 points. Ryan Strome, 12 points. So we'll keep moving from there. We shall indeed keep moving. I apologize. Back to the Dallas Stars now. Yikes, that's all I got to say. Jake Oettinger, who faced, 70 shots versus Calgary and almost beat them. I mean, that's insane. I don't even know how that could happen. That was Game 7 in the first round last year. Save percentage just under 92. He's got 1 shutout on the year. Jake Oettinger, of course, from Minnesota. Jason Robertson with 36 points. He's on pace for quite a few on the season. He's on pace for like 130 points. He's having a Lemieux-ish type season out there. We'll see if that lasts. 19th in goals. Second place are Jamie Benn and Joel Pavelski with 10 each. That's pretty good, actually. And Robertson also has 17 assists. Jiminy Christmas, man. Okay, Jason Robertson. Jeez. You come back down to earth now, you hear? Mikko Heiskanen keeps stepping up a bit now. Almost a point a game. 16 points. He'd definitely been more of a defensive defenseman for the first several years of his career. Now he's starting to pick it up. And Joe Pavelski, man, ageless wonder, 24 points in 23 games, 10 goals, like I mentioned. Wild lose 4-2. Kirill Kaprizov and Jason Robertson score, as they always do, against each other because, it is what it is. Calgary Flames, my second favorite team in the NHL. Either them or the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm always I'm a huge fan. I'm going to stay with Calgary, it generally is, because we're talking way, way back in the day, like late 80s, early 90s. I've been a fan of Calgary forever. Even when they were in our division, I kind of hated them for a little while then because they were an annoying team to play against, and they weren't real good either, except for 2004. Oliver Clinton, personal reasons, September 22nd. All right, anyhow. What's up with that? Tyler Toffoli, that's a long time, but Tyler Toffoli leading them with only 8 goals. So something's not working in Calgary at the moment. A lot of us had them winning the division, possibly even going to the Cup Finals and winning the whole entire thing with some wonderful additions, but I don't know, they've been disappointing. Markstrom and all them too. Calgary's 21st in goals, 16th in goals against. Nothing about them stands out really, except their penalty kill's 13th. That's the best thing they got. 21st in the power play, and they're 17th in penalty minutes, so they're reasonable about staying out of the box about about 75 less penalty minutes than the Wild. 3-game series because it's Pacific Division. Again, Wednesday, December the 7th at 7 in Calgary. You'd think it'd be later. That's Mountain Time Zone. So it's a 6 o'clock start in the Mountain Time Zone. Calgary again, way later in the year, March the 4th. That should be fun. I love playing the Calgary Flames, teams like that, and Calgary Flames in February, March, stuff like that as the year's progressing. And then March 7th, us right away in the X. So 2 games in Calgary, 1 in the X, 2 games in the Saddle Dome. If it's still called that, I'm pretty sure it is. Calgary 2-3 in their last 5. They beat Philly. I still remember that game. I actually watched it. It was fun. They lost 3 in a row since then and scored 3 goals in 3 games total. 5-2 loss. No, 5-2 win over Philly in Philly. Nice. 2-1 loss to Pittsburgh. Yep, I remember that. Washington 3-0 shutout. Jeez. These were all on the road, by the way. Carolina 3-2 loss to Carolina, and then a 6-2 win over Florida. I actually had that as the Cup final last year. Couldn't have been more wrong, huh? 6-2 victory for the Calgary Flames. Why am I seeing the same damn commercial? Don't you just hate that? It's boring. Stop playing the same commercial. My God, are they giving you $5 billion or something? Jeez. Ugh. I hate that. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Scotiabank Saddle Dome. That's why. It's the Scotiabank part, and that's actually old news. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, it is. Yeah. Jacob Markstrom, 3 goals against. What is happening there, man? I remember Jacob Markstrom last year was Venza level, right? And then Vezina level last year. And then here come the playoffs. He's okay versus Dallas. And then Edmonton, it was like 1 goal after another. It's like, wow, Calgary is just smoking Edmonton. And then it's like 9-3, 9-4, 9-5, 9-6. Like, okay, you can stop already, Markstrom. What happened? And he's not been good really ever since, to be quite fair. Elias Lindholm with 10 assists. That's nice and everything. Rasmus Anderson with 13. Tyler Toffoli leading the club with 16 points. Tied with Elias Lindholm and Rasmus Anderson. Nazem Kadri, the somewhat prize edition. He's pretty good, obviously, but not as exciting as some of us would have thought. And Jonathan Huberdeau, what's going on? 12 points in 19 games. So things are not really happening like you'd hope. Milan Lucic is ancient, only 5 points in 22 games, but of course provides a ton of leadership. And the guys on the fireside chat, they'll never shout out to me, but I'll give them some love right here. People don't shout out. They just don't because, I don't know, they're mean. I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. They just don't. Milan Lucic, they were saying he should be the captain. I don't know. Maybe it should be like Kadri. That's the other one. That's the other one they've actually been talking about. Or even, I don't know, Huberdeau maybe. Maybe he'd step up a little bit. But whatever. Calgary's been a major disappointment so far. Hopefully they can get their heads out of somewhere after the 6-2 victory over Florida. Am I going to be optimistic and pick the Wild to go 3-1 in this week? There, hopefully I got the frog out of my throat. Sorry, had to dump that out quick. I think so. I think the Wild can beat Calgary. It's been a tough matchup historically, and they are a very dangerous team. I mean, this team could go off like the 6-2 victory over Florida. Maybe that kind of woke them up a little bit. Maybe. I mean, I'm not overly optimistic about that, but quite possibly. They play the Montreal Canadiens, who they played in the Cup Finals twice in the 80s. 86, they lost to Montreal, and they beaten in 1989. Cool memory, right? That's back when you had 2 teams in the 2 Canadian teams in the Cup Finals, which I would like. I would like that. If the Wild aren't there, I would be quite happy if 2 Canadian teams made the Cup Finals. Then you could finally have a new Canadian team winning a Stanley Cup, or even if it's the same one, Montreal again, which I don't know. Maybe they will with Martin St. Louis, though. They might. He's doing a good job. He is. So 3-2 win for Minnesota? No, it'd be like 4-3. It'd be higher scoring, maybe. 3-2, 4-3. Oh, no, yeah, there it is. There's the Foligno incident. Now he's about to lose his mind again. Yep, there's O'Brien. Yep. Sorry, I'm distracted. I got to see this real quick. Yeah, but it's kind of dragging on, and they're all watching what's going on. They're focusing the camera on O'Brien, who's just kind of giving like a dirty look, basically, because he's in the penalty box. Yep. And so Foligno shoves O'Brien. Yeah, and then it goes Kablooey. That escalated quickly. Sorry. But yeah, Minnesota 4-3 win over Calgary. I'm going to say I think it's going to be higher scoring than we would like because there's a lot of talent there. Foligno's about to snap at least. And yeah, I could see Dean Evison flipping out. O'Brien's just kind of laughing at the whole thing. That's cute. The most likely going to score for the Calgary or against the Calgary Flames for Minnesota is going to be Matt Dumba, I guess. I'm going to go with Matt Dumba is going to score in this game. One of his rare goals this year, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's not been all that great. He's going to score a rare goal. Minnesota wins 4-3 though versus the Calgary Flames, and yep, Foligno's starting to really lose it now. Interesting. Yep, because he's not happy about what O'Brien did, like shooting the ice on the goalie, snowing on the goalie, basically. Sorry, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. Oh, it's fun to watch. I don't know, because I'm nuts. Yep, there goes the helmet. Yep, I knew that was coming. Okay, so, yep, Minnesota 3-1 in the upcoming, yeah, there goes Foligno now. 10-minute misconduct. Whew, yep, anyhow. I had to see it again. I mean, I apologize. Let's look at the prospects now that I'm getting my mind together correctly. I'll leave the little soundbite out this time. Done enough distractions already here, so my apologies for that. And as per usual, we open things up with the Iowa Wild. Sammy Walker leading that club with 17 points, just under a point a game, 9 goals, 8 assists in 19. Joe Hicketts, yep, he had a strong start last year, I remember as well. Then he kind of slowed down. Beckman had been pretty slow for a little while, but he's picked up of late, thankfully. 9 points in 15 games at the moment. And Ty Ronning has emerged a bit. He was very slow to open things out. Marco Rossi, 4 points in the 2 games so far. He had 3 points in the first period of his first AHL game. Like, I'm not going to stay here very long. Damon Hunt finally kind of contributing a bit now. A couple of extra assists here. He did have his first goal a little while back. 3 assists now with 4 points. So that's nice to see offensively, at least Damon Hunt picking up and improving gradually, not turning the puck over as much, hopefully. But, but he still does, obviously, because everybody does. Sam Hentges so far just 1 game. What the heck? So that's really disappointing. Kind of sad with Sam Hentges thus far. No points in that. Ryan O'Rourke still at 1 point. He's, unfortunate start for him. 16 games and 1 point, 1 assist, just like Rossi at the NHL level. Oh, man, that sucks. Zane McIntyre's been up with Minnesota. Wallstedt's been the main guy down there. Hunter Jones, that 1 game, that was the last week. Last week I talked about that, still at the same point, just under 2 goals a game. Had given up 2 goals, but didn't finish the game, apparently. So, good for him thus far. Good, strong performance by Hunter Jones in the 1 game he got to be in. 93% save percentage. Could be a confidence boost to have him in the AHL versus the ECHL, where the Iowa Heartlanders have not been good. There's another mess going on there. Sorry. Jasper Wallstedt, 317 in the goals against average and save percentage under 90, unfortunately. So, yeah, it kind of is what it is. Damien Giroux still floating around at just 5 points in 14 games, so it's unfortunate to see him struggling. And Nick Swaney's at a half point a game thus far with his 5 goals and 2 assists in 14 games. So it's sad. It's sad to see some of these guys take a step back. It really is. So hopefully we're going to see something better. Of course, Rossi, like I always talk about, the batting average and the home runs are going to go way up now in the AHL, just like things did with Joel Eriksson Ek. And I do believe Rossi will probably come out of the AHL faster than maybe even Jewel did at the time. And it was interesting how Jewel just kind of went straight to the NHL after 1 AHL game, basically, when he first cracked into the NHL, Joel Eriksson Ek. And then, see Rossi, they had him down in the AHL last year. Was pretty good most of the year, had some quiet spells, came up to Minnesota, didn't do anything points-wise, but still played a good game, generally speaking, but certainly not perfect. Wasn't producing offensively now at AHL, 2 points a game so far. So encouraging in that sense. Let's go Euro a bit here if we can. Marat Huznadinov, of course, 2020 draft is now the everything takes to jump out at you here. I apologize. St. Petersburg of the NHL. Again, of course, playing professional hockey there. The main thing. 7 goals, 14 assists in 36 games. Kuznetsov definitely more productive in the KHL. Has already eclipsed last year's numbers in 32 games. Almost doubled at 21. So definitely getting better and better, and that's a very encouraging sign. A lot of people hoping that Kuznetsov ends up being another Russian star coming to Minnesota. I don't think his offense is going to be as prolific as Kirill Kaprizov, but I guess you never know. His skating ability is fantastic, and his defense is, way up there. Carson Lambos, again, more and more reason why the Wild could be looking to move on from Dumba. Not that Lambos is ready to go, but he will be eventually. The guys like the Lamboses, the O'Rourkes, and the Damon Hunts. I mean, you got to make room for them at some point. I understand they're not ready yet. Maybe you have to have placeholders and all that, and there's free agents and trades you can make. I just don't see Dumba coming back. I don't see Dumba coming back long term. 20 points in 21 games for Carson Lambos. Has not played since last week, unfortunately. But again, awesome numbers. Right about a point a game for the Winnipeg Ice. Carson Lambos has missed some time, unfortunately, which can drive you crazy. It's frustrating. I was going Euro, and then I'm just going into general juniors. I'm kind of going into both, so might as well go to both. I apologize for the back and forth approach. 9 assists in 14 games so far for Jack Pert. He's definitely stepped up after a slow start in his sophomore year for the St. Cloud State Huskies. Love what Jack Pert can do. He's a power play type of guy. Caden Banker. I'll get it right one of these days. Playing in the juniors, of course. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, but Kamloops Blazers, of course, obviously love the logo. I like anything involving like flames and stuff. And he's had a major step up, like I talked about in the last couple episodes. He's on pace for 87 points in 67 games, 57 goals, 17 on the year so far in only 20 games. Think about that. Awesome start for Bankier. And I've said this probably 15 times already on previous episodes. People could tell he'd taken a step up in the the summer prospect camp and all that, and people very encouraged by him. He's one of those dark horses where you're like, ooh, there's something there. Kyle Masters, people were talking very highly of, and yeah, already eclipsed last season point totals. 65 games, 14 points last year, 20 games in 19 this year. So what a step up, and his plus minus keeps going up now. As I remember, he actually was at a minus, then he got to even. Now he's a +5 on the year. Is Kyle Masters from Edmonton, Alberta. 5'11". He's a right shot defenseman like everybody else, right? 3 goals and 16 assists. Definitely getting the job done with those power play assists. A point a game guy, just under. Absolutely great. Josh Pilar, Saskatoon Blades. He's a point a game guy now. Last year with Kamloops, he was over a point a game, believe it or not. He was doing great. And then, of course, the trade happened, and he was less than half a point a game with Saskatoon. But now he's picked it up again, and he's a +11 on the year, which is much better than +4 or -1 last season with the two different clubs, respectively. Nate Benoit, again, picked up the offense significantly this year in a lot of ways, but he's a -11, unfortunately, is Nate Benoit for the Omaha Lancers, classic USHL team. 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 total points in 18 games. Again, has eclipsed every stat that he had before, so that's always cool and exciting and all that. Now we'll go back Euro again, which is fun sometimes. Liam Ugrin, pardon me for the noise. Apologize here, trying not to cough. Stepping up in a big way for Sweden. Well, kind of anyway. Sort of. 8 points in 22 games, 6 total goals in the 22 games. So he's more of a goal scorer thus far for this club. But in the past, you saw more of a passer. But of course, that'll be Danil Yurov is definitely more of a passer. Matt Zuccarello replacement someday, quite possibly, to go on the other side with the right wing with Kirill Kaprizov someday. That could happen. We'll see. But that's a long ways away. Danil Yurov, we're coming back to him very shortly here. Love what he can do, and I remember that being such an exciting pick. He was actually our real pick, and then Liam Ugrin was the Kevin Fiala replacement. And we'll see. Might end up being a similar type of guy, hopefully. But obviously, it's too early to say. This thing is really funky. I apologize. He's on pace for just 16 points, but at least, again, he's scoring. In the MHL, he's on pace in the KHL, but he'd played 33 games and had 4 goals, 4 assists. Again, that's something. It's something. It's progress from last year. And in the MHL, he's about a point-a-game guy in just 5 games, 4 points. So that's, of course, again, the AHL of the KHL. So that's cute and everything. But, yeah, obviously super-duper early. He turns 19, does Danila Yurov on December 22nd. So, again, long ways away. Can't get too excited, can't get too down one way or another. When it comes to some of those European guys, they're like 17, 18 years old. I mean, give them some time. That's how it's going to have to be. Hunter Haight, again, always showing promise. But unfortunately, the number is kind of low at this point. He'd showed promise early, but again, remember how young he is. He's insanely young. So be patient. 9 points, just 3 goals in 20 games so far, and he is a center for the Barrie Colts. So again, be patient with that guy. There's going to be something there. Rigor Lorenz for Denver, the hated Denver Pioneers. He was great in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, but yeah, that's what that is. University of Denver, maybe you won't be seeing the same amount of minutes for a club like that. In 12 games, he has 1 goal and 2 assists thus far for the Denver Pioneers. Michael Milne, who's been in the AHL, he's been in the AHL basically this year, which is pretty cool. At 20, and he is 20 years of age, so he's old enough to be in the AHL. A little older prospect. Kind of cool, actually. 1 goal, 1 assist so far for the left winger. 2 points at age 20. So we'll see what happens with Michael Milne. Again, a couple years older than the typical draft pick. Ryan Healy, even younger than Hunter Haight. And you could argue there's a little bit more there. At the college level, already 5 points in 9 games, 1 goal, 4 assists. Ryan Healy. And he's a defenseman, too. A right-shot defenseman. Another right-shot defenseman, which continues to say bye-bye Dumba at some point. One of these guys has to take that spot, right? I mean, there's like 19 right-shot defensemen. So I remember joking with Derek during the State of the Wild episode back in early July. Oh, like we have like 19 defensemen basically in the system that are all, there's hope that a few of them could make it to the NHL. Obviously, you draft a guy hoping that. And I was like, they took a defenseman, and what's another pick? Another defenseman. I'm like BSing around, but we had a chuckle about that. Yeah, Spacek has been incredible for the Qs thus far. Sherbrooke Phoenix, cool name, 5 goals, 17 assists. He's a +5 on the season, 22 points in 24 games. And he did have 50 points last year in 57 games for the same club. So Spacek's an interesting one, 5th round pick. Of course, yeah. And he's got NHL blood in his family, of course. And we wrap things up with Petrovsky for the Owen Sound Attack. He's a centre of the OHL there. 22 points in 21 games at the young age of 18. Actually, he is even younger. He's the youngest guy of the entire in the entire Wild system. August 10th, 2004. That is insane. That is insane. August 10th. You go from April with Hunter Haight, Regger Lorenz, May, and then Petrovsky of Slovakia. August 2004. August 2004. Feel old yet, guys? Wow. August 2004. I just can't get over that. With that, though, that's pretty much where we're standing. Some definite encouragement with some of these guys. Obviously, again, a lot of them are far, far away, unfortunately. The closest guy to being in the NHL is Marco Rossi. Yeah. I know. That's mean, isn't it? Otherwise, the other guy who's got to be fairly close is Brock Faber. And I always tend to forget him because he wasn't a draft pick. Of course, he was in a trade for Kevin Fiala and with the Liam Ugren move. 11 points so far in 16 games. He's definitely on pace for career highs. The captain of the Golden Gophers, who were the number 2 team in the nation, but after losing in overtime to the Sun Devils in one of the games, that can't be good. So that sucks. 2 goals, 9 assists in 16 games, though very, 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 very productive, and a +11 in his junior and probably final season with the Golden Gophers. And again, right shot defenseman. Need I say more? Right shot defenseman. Is there an echo? Yeah, there is. With that said, we'll take a quick break, and it's time for the ultra fun fan interaction segment. And we are back here on Brave the Wild, segment number 3. Time to look at Twitter, at Brave the Wild, at Brave the Wild. Derek Felska, at Crease and Assist, has got a Minnesota Wild question on your mind. Ask Brave the Wild Tiger questions. Hashtag BTWMN and ask as many as you please. And thank you very much, Derek, always. Should be everything there. I'm going to kind of bounce around. Derek opens up. It's the Derek Felska lightning round. They say that teams that are in the playoff picture on Thanksgiving are the teams that will be in the NHL playoffs in the spring. The Minnesota Wild are currently on the outside looking in. Should that make the team be cautious about making a move for a number one center or no? I would say probably. Probably, again, because of the cap situation isn't pretty. You have a lot of young guys who are, inexpensive, thankfully, that can hopefully come up not too long from now, including Marco Rossi. Not too expensive at the moment. That will, obviously help fill this roster. And then by the time they're due for, their raise and everything, the whole cap nonsense will be cleared up. So I'm with the Judge Zolgads of the world that are not too keen on making a huge move here and gutting the future, so to speak. And I know sometimes the future can drive people nuts because prospects oftentimes aren't what you expect. Mikhail Granlund was looked on like what Kirill Kaprizov is in a lot of ways, and he did not become that guy. Kirill Kaprizov ultimately is the only one that ever really became the star player that we kind of hoped for. Almost all of them. Charlie Coyle we thought was going to be really a really good player. Maybe not a star, but one of the best players on the team, and he never was. And you could go on forever. Niederreiter, Zucker. We thought Zucker was going to be like a 40-goal guy. Like, no. He had like 130-goal season. So I understand the frustration with that. At the same time, the cap situation isn't going to help this team the next couple of years. So it's kind of tough. At least that's the way I see it. Other people might be like, well, you could probably clear space. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, and if there is something out there that makes sense, I mean, I suppose, and it has to be somebody that's probably pretty young. Like, say, Sam Steele's age, but, higher performer at this stage. Love what Sam Steele's done, but I'm not dancing on tulips for Sam Steele either necessarily. Derek continues. The World Cup is going on in Qatar. The World Cup of hockey hasn't been around since 2016. Do you think it's necessary, or is it made redundant by the annual World Championships or Olympics? That is kind of true. World Cup hockey would be really cool, but it seems like there are too many events, unfortunately. I think it would be cool, though. It's kind of a shame, and maybe you get to know new players that can emerge in a situation like that. Like, whoa, that guy really had a great World Cup. Maybe he really belongs at the NHL level, this and that. So I think it'd be cool. It is kind of sad. Derek says, just to clarify, I mean, it is redundant to have the World Cup of hockey with those other two around. Yeah, yep, of course. I'm not making a comment on the World Cup. Yeah, he just means that, like maybe it's too many events where it's kind of like the same thing. Alex Ovechkin, Russia, and Kirill Kaprizov, Russia. Okay, I'm going on Russia only. Back in the day, maybe a Zach Parise for the U.S., stuff like that. So, yeah, I can understand the redundancy. It'd be cool to have, but I can understand that side in a big way, if that kind of helps to answer the question a little bit. Derek says, during last week's game against Toronto, their goaltender, Matt Murray, knocked the goal off its mornings on 3 separate occasions, none of them being caused by a collision or his own, with a collision with his own or Minnesota Wild players. Beyond a delay of game, should more be done? If it keeps happening, he should probably be fined. I'd probably go with that. Delay of game, absolutely. He probably should be fined because it's like, dude, that's cheating. Eventually, when does it go from just kind of being smart or tricky to cheating? Like if you're going to fine and suspend Tom Brady for Deflategate, you sure as hell can fine and suspend Matt Murray for Mooringsgate. You know what I mean? Mooringsgate or Netgate or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think it should lead to that. If it fines and possible suspension for a game or two or 19, I don't know, depending on how long it goes. Brian Herrera says, with Steele producing and fitting into the top line, do we see him remain there for a long time, or will he lose his spot when Hartman returns? I'm liking Steele there since he adds some more playmaker ability, but he needs to shoot more. Yeah. For now, sure. For now, Steele's good. For now, I would like to believe that there's a better player at some point. Probably not Ryan Hartman. Probably not. Hartman could be productive second, third line type of guy. I think last year might have been kind of like what was with a lot of the Minnesota Twins in 2019. Like, holy crap, 30 home runs, blah, 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 35 home runs, Max Kepler. And next thing you know, he's just kind of an oft-injured, mediocre player. Not that he wasn't off-injured in 2019 also, but you get the idea. He might be the Max Kepler of the Minnesota Wild, where it's like there's something there, but not as much as we thought. So Steele could be a nice placeholder for the time being. Good player. He was a first-round pick, just like Ryan Hartman, but is he a long-term solution? Of course not. Short-term solution? Sure. A year or two, we'll see what happens. Obviously, you hope and pray that one or two of the prospects can emerge and be something. So obviously there's been frustration. A lot of us loved Hovhanov, and he didn't even come close. Brian Herrera continues. Another one says, and thank you, Brian, love it. Says, Rossi, heading to Iowa is a good thing for his game and confidence to rebuild. Yep, he was overwhelmed in the season, and it showed. I agree with that. With Shaw taking a spot and Patan proving a good 13th forward, do you think Rossi will be back up this season, or will he remain in Iowa to finish? I think he'll be back up. I think he's going to hit a lot of home runs, so to speak. I know I say that way too much. And bat 400 in AAA. I think that's going to happen. I have a feeling he's going to step up nicely and be back in, 2 to 4 weeks is my guesstimation, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. But I have a pretty good feeling he'll be back up, Marco Rossi. And then suddenly you'll see something. I think it'll be kind of like with Jules Eriksson, where he was down for a few weeks and was a point-a-game player, came back up and was a little better. He started producing and then eventually became a better and better player. And I do believe Rossi offensively is more high-end than Jules Eriksson, and maybe might end up being that number one center someday. And I'm hoping and praying. Derek Felska says, on Sunday, Marcus Foligno decided to fight Arizona's Liam O'Brien. Shouldn't he leave the fighting to Ryan Reeves so he doesn't risk getting hurt, or am I missing something? Probably, especially like he could have gotten in much bigger trouble for all that reaction afterwards. I don't blame him for being really upset and thinking what happened wasn't fair. It did feel like he got a raw deal and all of that, but he could. I think it's okay if he does some of the fighting, but he probably went way overboard with that one. Yeah. I think he went overboard, and Ryan Reeves fits that bill pretty well. So, nope, I don't think you're missing something with that one. A couple more. Yep. Derek Felska says, what is the best sports video game of all time, in my opinion? In your opinion, yeah. Oh, boy. NHL 95 is way up there. I love playing that game. Haven't lately as much. Super Batter Up is a classic baseball game I like to play for the Super Nintendo. Sega Genesis, there's that sports, what do they call it? Sports Talk Baseball or something. It sounds just like, and I think it is his voice. It sure sounds like it, like Jack Buck. It's a home run. Games like that. If I were to pick a single sports game of all time, it's probably NHL 95. I probably spent more time playing that one than any of the others. You can get all those classic players. Obviously, way back in the day, and I still play it off and on, is Blades of Steel. That's my original favorite sports video game of all time, is Blades of Steel. But probably since about the mid-90s, I'd say NHL 95. We have young players like Wes Waltz, and really young players like Bill Guerin. I believe he was on. Yeah, he was on the game. He was super young then. Madonna, obviously, guys like that. Steve Snyder says, if the Wild, and thank you, Derek, for sharing this one, if the Wild do remain in contention as the season progresses, a big if, he says, will Bill Guerin go after a top six forward? If yes, do we give up one of our deep defensive pool prospects? I know cap space will still be an issue, so not sure we can afford a top six player. There was talk about it, and then it ended up being Ryan Reeves. It's kind of funny. Maybe. I mean, if we could get Timo Meier and keep him somehow, obviously you have to clear cap space, and I do think Dumba's probably gone, so that's $6 million, but You know what I mean? Unfortunately, with this team, the $6 million doesn't disappear really that easily with this current situation. I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it. It would have to be like maybe we have a strong opinion on certain prospects and are willing to move others that maybe another franchise just is in love with, for but we're not, that kind of thing. Maybe you can come ahead that way, I suppose, because just have different opinions, and you're the lucky one of the two in that sense. That's kind of how I think it could happen. And again, but you have to give up cap space. That's the hard part. Otherwise, bringing in more cap space is impossible for this current team. Like $2 million with Goligoski isn't all that, isn't going to help all that much either, unfortunately. Yep, good question though, Steve. Definitely. It could happen. It just would be hard, I guess. Brian Herrera says, yep, there it is. Yep, Joel Eriksson, Marcus Foligno, and 75. That'd be Ryan Reeves. Seem to fit well together and add a big checking presence on the ice. Greenway, that's 18, has added the same energy to his other lines. Do we see 18 move up in the lineup to play with Boldy, or more, or will he go back to the Grief line? Well, it sounds like the Grief line's been reunited. I was going to bring that up. I was hearing about that basically before I started the second segment. Yep. Grief line. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be back to the Grief line again, but that's another option, especially being the fact guys get hurt all the frickin' time. So that's another reason. Or Ryan Reeves could slot right in to replace somebody if need be, to kind of get the like a freak line or a Reeves line. I don't know what you'd call it. They'd come up with something, but for now, I think the Grief is what it is. Greenway, Eck, and Foligno. Yep. So, Jody Anderson, and I need to mention this because I didn't last episode. She is the author of Hockey Moms Aren't Crazy. Well, maybe a little. Isn't that cool? And so she follows Brave the Wild and has been interacting with me. So, huge shout out to Jody Anderson. Check it out. Check out check out Hockey Moms Aren't Crazy. Well, maybe a little. Apparently, it's selling very well. So, of course, places like Amazon and such, go for it. Highly recommend it. She says, who is your favorite Minnesota NHL hockey player ever? Minnesota NHL hockey player ever. Like Minnesota based. I wondered. It's an interesting one. I'm trying to debate here. Probably if he's from Minnesota. Oh man, it's always a very tough. Neil Broughton's got to be way up there, winning the national championship and going to the Cup Finals twice with Minnesota. If it's Minnesota based overall, right now, I think Kirill Kaprizov is my favorite player to play for a Minnesota NHL team. And believe it or not, as much as I liked Modano, Dino Ciccarelli, but that's probably going back a little too far for, because I was super young still. I was still very young when he got traded away. I was, about 9 years old? Yeah, about 1988, right? And then Larry Murphy, yeah, definitely. But of course, no, he was only here for like a year and a half, and we stupidly traded him away for Jim Johnson. Obviously, Brian Bellows was the other one that I just loved him as a player with the Minnesota North Stars. He was a hell of a scorer. Loved what he could do. Brian Bellows. Loved Dave Gagne too. But yeah, Bellows, Modano, guys like that, classics with the North Stars. Of course, Modano was super young when the North Stars moved away, unfortunately. But overall player that simply played for the Minnesota NHL team is Kirill Kaprizov. I think he's better than all of them, believe it or not. And then, of course, Minnesota base, it's got to be Neil Broughton. He, again, won the national title with the Gophers. And then, of course, was a part of two Minnesota teams that went to the finals and was so good in the 80s, and unfortunately was slowing down in the 90s with the injuries that had happened earlier in his career. But still, wonderful player in terms of Minnesota-based. I can't say it's Parise. Obviously, the history's tarnished. Parise would have possibly been there, but his history's tarnished. I'm sorry. I didn't like what happened here with him and Ryan Suter. So that's where I stand on that. Thank you very much, Jody. Jay Bushy back on board. Awesome. Great to hear from you. Says, as Russo has stated, Dumba will be traded or could potentially walk in free agency. I really feel that he has very little trade value. Your thoughts? I think so, too. We could be looking at a mediocre, like a mid-range draft pick. I don't think it'll be as low as fifth round, because, we gave up a fifth round for Ryan Reeves. I got to think, Hopefully you can get more than a 5th-round pick for Dumba, but it ain't going to be too much, and you probably don't want another player coming back unless you're in love with the guy, and he's not expensive because of the same reason, the damn cap situation. So maybe like it might end up being like and I know Bill Guerin will want to kick my ass for even thinking of this, like a 3rd or 4th round pick. It might end up being that. If you can get a second, that'd be really good. If you can get a 2nd round pick or maybe a 2nd and 3rd, ooh, that'd be really nice. If it's 3rd and 4th, okay, that's probably too low, but a 2nd and 3rd round pick, maybe. A lot of you might be like, you want to slap me in the face, where others are like, Joey, how you're going to get that for it? So obviously it's a very differing type of thing. It's a very divided type of situation with Dumba. Some people love him. Some people think he's not that good. I think he's not that good, unfortunately, but does have some value, some. And if somebody out there loves him and thinks he can help their team, regardless of the price, it's just a free agent anyway. It's not like he's going to make $6 million next year. It'd probably be closer to 3.5 or something is my guess. Jody Anderson says, I agree, Jay. And Sarcastic Irishman says, unless someone wants a turnover machine. Yeah, so you see, some people might look at it that way, where you're like, well, yeah, like, what's the point? You'd be lucky to get that 5th round pick back for Mr. Up and Derek retweeted that one or shared it. Steve Snyder. Yep, this is the one. This will wrap this up. Yep, Steve Snyder says, it's been interesting. We've heard very little from, yeah, true. This is, yep, I saw this. It's been interesting. We've heard very little from Guerin this year. When they win, he's everywhere. Now we are like a 500 team and we don't get much. I'd like to see some ownership on the bad moves made and him taking the heat, as he had no problems basking in the success. That's a good take. That's a good take. I'm not against you for that. You know, sometimes it's good. I'm sure he'll be around more. KFAN Girl says, I don't disagree with you, but I'm curious about what bad moves he made. He doesn't have a lot to work with right now. Yep, I mean, there aren't really bad moves. It's just the team's not playing really well. Maybe the bad move is maybe not. I'm blanking. I was like Fleury and giving up Kakinen, but Kakinen hasn't been good with the Sharks either. Fleury's actually been fine this year. It's just that he's super old. You know, he's no long-term solution. I can't say the moves are bad, no. But again, the team's not winning. The team's not winning, bottom line. Maybe it's more of a bad non-move, like giving up Dumba when his trade value might have been higher. The fact that he scored a little bit lately might help a tiny bit, might get somebody encouraged to maybe get their eye a little bit on Dumba a little more. But really interesting tweet, Steve. Thank you for that. That's a good thought. He really has been invisible. I don't think he's really as invisible necessarily by choice. Maybe people aren't asking him for interviews as much. I don't know. One interesting thing is it sounds like Mike Modano has been more involved with hockey ops than before. So that's kind of cool. He's taken on a bigger role. So in a way, that's kind of cool. Hopefully we can hear from Mike Modano some more as well. I thought, yeah, they were saying his role was going to evolve and head more into the hockey ops department. So that's kind of cool. We'll see what happens. And again, there isn't a whole lot to work with. He had to lose. He had to give up Fiala. To get up for futures, Ogren, and Faber. So neither one of them was available to the Minnesota Wild at the moment. So that's another way to look at it. I mean, it's not necessarily it's not a bad move. It's just you're stuck. And like he said, he would have removed those two guys, Suter and Parisi, again if he had the choice to do it again. And I would too. And unfortunately, it is what it is. We're kind of recovering from bad moves of previous regimes and, I don't know, and risky ones. Like Suter Parisi was all exciting at the time, but we all knew a 13-year contract isn't going to be a good thing long term. Short term, it's exciting. Long term, it's dangerous, very high risk. So we're paying for it now, unfortunately, all of us. We're paying for that July 4th celebration on back in 2012. So great thoughts there. Thank you, Steve, for that. Where's the retweet? Who retweeted it? Or is it a quote tweet? Yep. Derek Felska says, amen, 100%. Yeah. About he should probably be more visible. He should be, and I think he will be as the year progresses. And I hope so. So I think I made my point, and all should be well with that. Thank you guys so very much for your interaction. Really, really appreciate it every single week, and we're going to continue doing the show. Shout outs to, of course, MNW Prospects, also known as Young Guns. MNW Prospects. We have Pavel Bennett, Justin Bakke, Brandon Quast, myself, who have not been as involved as I'd like to be, and it's my own fault. Huge shout out to Minnesota Wild Global. Always appreciate them in a big way. Scott Cavendish. Kathy, did I say? Yeah, Scott Cavendish, yes. There's another one, Scott Doherty for the Timberwolves. Scott Cavendish, yes. Minnesota Wild Global. Kathy Main, Chad Walski, Chance Kostick, David Kostick, David Abraham, Michael Fick. Some great people there. Great people to interact with. And there's some more that I'd like to maybe mention as I get more and more. Patrick Turner, big shout out to him as well. Minnesota Wild Nation coming out of Florida, but really cool to know there's Florida fans that like the Minnesota Wild. Others, let me think. Supposedly even Mario Andretti I believe he's in Florida, listens to the, well, at least he follows Brave the Wild on Twitter. That might mean he listens as well. So wouldn't that be Mario Andretti? Yeah, I just said that, which is the darndest thing ever. Mario Andretti follows Brave the Wild. Yeah, I can't even believe it. Huge shout out to Hockey Database. Really appreciate everything they do, and they're a huge part of the show, more than people might understand. When I get into the prospects talk and look around the league, look at history, look at current things, look at futures, Hockey Database, huge shout out, and thank you for following this Twitter account as well. Please call into the show if you'd like. Haven't had a voice on this show in I don't know how long. Open up your smart device. Open that free voice recording app that every smart device has. And basically press record. Treat it like a phone call. Hit stop when you're done. And then share it / email it at paladinolive@yahoo.com. Paladinolive@yahoo.com. I will then convert it into an MP3 file. Thanks to Zumzar.com with a Z. They convert files for you, which is wonderful. Please write a positive rating on Apple Podcasts and some of the other apps that may allow you to do that, like Spotify and such. Huge, massive shout out, of course, to the Hockey Pod Network, Hockey Podcast Network. Unbelievably great. Dylan and Kyle, great guys coming out of Vancouver, British Columbia area. Really love you guys. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Soda Pod, of course. Always like to Isha Jerome and Scott, also known as Hoppy, of course. That's his main name, his nickname on there. Trying to think, is there other things? Again, positive rating, already mentioned that. Shout outs all over the place. So hope all of you have a wonderful week, and the Minnesota Wild continue to head in a good direction and make the right moves as the season progresses.